guys, FilmCrazyAdam here. To those of you who just finished watching part 1 of the big review, thank you. And now, welcome to part 2. To those of you who are just tuning in the first part of my big review, I talked about the 3 ages of American televised cartoons. The Gold, Silver, and Bronze Age, and how cartoons on TV have long since passed their glory days, which they're never going to get back. But despite that fact, every now and then, a good cartoon is still made. This part of the review is to talk about one of those rare gems, though, admittedly, it may take some convincing on my part. Now, bear with me on this one, okay? Bear with me. The show I'm reviewing is referred to as Friendship is Magic, or, by its full title, My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic. Hey, hey! I see what you're... Hey! Take your hand away from the mouse. Hear me out. And I know this sounds stupid and silly, maybe even a little gay, but trust me, there is nothing, freaking nothing that you can say to me that I haven't already said to myself long before I even thought about doing this review. Now, the truth of the matter is, the show, it's actually pretty good. I know, surprisingly, right? And I know you also probably don't believe me. Yet. Because, I mean, if you told me 18 months ago that I would be a fan of anything called My Little Pony,
there's something wrong with your brain.
It's amazing. I mean, this show, which was originally made for little girls, now has this huge adult fan base, many of which are in their late 20s to mid-30s. Case in point. Why? We'll get to that. But before I talk about Friendship is Magic, I need to mention the 3 other incarnations of My Little Pony. Yeah, I bet you didn't know that. There are actually 4 different generations of My Little Pony in total. In this segment, we're going to take a comparative look at all 4 different generations of My Little Pony to get a clear understanding about the differences of each and why Friendship is Magic is a much, much better show and is nothing like the other generations. So, let's begin a comparative look at the 4 generations of My Little Pony. Gen 1, known simply as My Little Pony, hit the airwaves as a 22-minute made-for-TV special in 1984. This special would later be titled Rescue at Midnight Castle. This would be followed by another TV special a year later, and then followed by the only My Little Pony theatrical release to date after that. In 1986, My Little Pony began to regularly broadcast episodes as part of a half-hour variety show called My Little Pony and Friends. The first segment was always My Little Pony. The second segment would be a cartoon for another Hasbro toy that they were trying to promote, either the Potato Head Kids, Moon Dreamers, or Glow Friends. This ran in the early mornings from 1986 to 1987. The show featured one big clusterfrack of ponies that would change frequently, usually from episode to episode. There was also a wide variety of ponies. By that I mean there were Earth ponies, Pegasi, unicorns, and sea ponies. The ponies lived in a fantasy world where trolls, witches, and other magical creatures also lived. This is the only incarnation of My Little Pony that had humans in it. Megan and her younger siblings Danny and Molly would appear in episodes occasionally for no real reason except to play with the ponies, sometimes to solve problems. Now, the 3 didn't appear in every episode, and they would visit from the human world which existed on the other side of the rainbow.
North Star, you better go fetch Megan, if you can still get over the rainbow!
In this series, the ponies basically just played around until something bad happened. It could be almost anything. Some pony wandering off, getting into trouble, or getting caught by some creature. Whatever the reason, there was almost always a song in each episode.
By right, I should be queen. Look what I can do. Take a day all dull and gray and change it into blue.
I'm being really charitable when I say that these songs were just so stupid. They sucked hard for a couple of reasons. The songs were very lowly produced, usually with 1 or 2 instruments. Usually when casting an animated production, a singing voice is hired in addition to a speaking voice for characters because, well, some people can act and some people can sing, but rarely can they do both. And this was not one of those rare times. The speaking voices and singing voices were done by the same person and was more often times than not kind of lame or awful. There was no setup or segue for any of these songs. The characters seemed to just break out into song and generally sing about what they were doing in the scene. You know, just like a bad musical.
So if a ghost appears in this location, don't get in a state of agitation.
They didn't serve any purpose and usually showed up at an awkward point in the show. It was awkward in the sense that there was usually no reason for the song. It wasn't needed, but they put one in anyway. This show, as well as all the other shows in this variety half hour, were aimed at really, really young kids, between ages 3 and 5. The dialogue was simple.
What? Ghost in the room! Ghost? No, not ghost. Bad dream, baby heartthrob. That's all.
Very simple. And the acting wasn't that great either.
Here, ghosty woasty! Come out, wherever you are!
There's a very good reason this version of My Little Pony and the fans of it are made fun of. It's wimpy.
Look at my hoof! The beautiful polish is chipped! All that fuss over chipped hoof polish? I gave you the ancient recipe for polish made from glitter sand.
The show was so contrived, especially when it came to conflict resolution. More oftentimes than not, the characters would just happily play with each other, and then something would happen where they would just snap to being angry in 1 second, half the time over something trivial. And then just as fast, they would forgive or forget about whatever it was that made them angry, almost like they were bipolar. Overall, the show itself came off as wimpy and pretty lame. But you know, I can't be completely one-sided about this review, can I? There has to be something good about this series. I really like her mane. On the upside, it didn't have anything offensive, and it was good for preschoolers in that regard. This show was a video babysitter, nothing more. Something you can put on and the kids would park themselves in front of the TV and sit there for hours. The fact that there were talking animals in bright colors really appeals to the 3 to 5 age group. The show didn't have much substance, but it didn't have to. It didn't have any educational or teaching value, but it did its job well as far as a show for preschoolers. My Little Pony and Friends would run for 65 episodes until 1987. My Little Pony would return to the airwaves in 1992 with the second generation of the show on the Disney Channel. This new show was called My Little Pony Tales. This new incarnation was massively different in almost every way from the previous. Firstly, it wasn't a variety show anymore. It was still a half-hour show, but with 2 separate 10-minute segments that were just My Little Pony. The ponies now lived in a place called Ponyland. The ponies were strictly Earth ponies in this generation. All unicorns and other types didn't appear at all, except for the Alien Pony episode. In this generation, the ponies were anthropomorphized, meaning they were animals that lived and acted like humans. The ponies lived in houses, went to school, held jobs, and very frequently they stood upright. This show also introduced a main cast. The cast featured and focused on the lives of 7 preteen female ponies.
Starlight, sweetheart, melody, bright eyes, passion, clover, bonbons, baking, cookies, girls, hurry up on over.
Everyone remembers My Little Pony from the 80s, but Gen 2 is where the show really got labeled as a girls' show. Because it was.
May I have your attention, please? The topic for today's tea party is whether or not to allow boys into our club.
This was a stereotypical girls' show, plain and simple, where the girl characters talked about girly things. At least in this show they had better actors.
Bright Eyes is talking about things like spaceships and flying saucers. Come on, Patch, those things don't exist.
It says here the UFO was spotted right above Pony Point.
But the songs that popped up were still just as bad.
Secrets, secrets, what if someone knew my secrets, secrets? Think of how embarrassed I would be if they knew the secret side of me.
They were still badly produced and badly sung, and again, oftentimes popped up at awkward times.
Don't know what I do, I die if people knew my secret.
Another reason Gen 2 gets ripped on so much is because it just looks stupid. They're ponies, but they're operating heavy and complex machinery without fingers. They're walking or dancing around on their hind legs like people. They live and work like people. Why even make them ponies if you're going to make them so damn human? They could have been almost anything else. I know it sounds moronic to bring that up in a cartoon about talking ponies, but it was just such a stupid premise. But come on! This was just silly.
Boys, 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 what do we want with boys?
Boys, the bully ones, a group,
But some might think are awfully cute.
Not to say that there's no entertainment value in the show. This is what you'd call a guilty pleasure for the fans that watch it. The definition of a guilty pleasure is something you find enjoyment in for reasons other than it being good. In other words, there are people who like the show, but not because it's good, and they know it. Also, I really like her mane. Just like with Generation 1, it was a safe show for kids to watch, and it was a good space filler. The show didn't last long though. It only ran in 1992 for 26 episodes.
My Little Pony Tales.
Nothing happened with My Little Pony again for over 10 years. Gen 3, titled My Little Pony, made its debut in 2003 and would release collections of shorts as well as a few feature-length movies direct to home video. Gen 3 is a bit more multi-layered than the other two generations in terms of how many changes they made to the series during its run. The first home video featured one big clusterfuck of just Earth ponies, kinda like Gen 2. It wasn't until 2006 that they mixed it up by adding unicorns and these fairy ponies called Breezies, and it wouldn't be until 2008 when they would finally introduce a primary cast known as the Core 7. This world was in some ways similar to the Gen 1 fantasy-based world with magic creatures. But we can't talk about Gen 3 without talking about the art style. Oh god, this art style! The colors for the ponies and everything around them is just too damn loud. It almost hurts to watch this with so many bright and clashing random colors. Also, the character design is really... I don't know what the right word is here. Weird? Creepy? Unnatural? Off-putting? I can't get past these designs. Every so often they make a facial expression that's... I don't know. Is this what people who are afraid of clowns feel? The plots were also a throwback to Gen 1, with the ponies just playing with each other until somebody encountered... I wouldn't call them problems as much as I'd call them inconveniences.
Oh no! Our birthday book! Pink? Pink! It's Pinky's birthday today! Oh no, we haven't planned anything! No party, no presents, no cake! Oh my!
Once again, the story and intelligence level was aimed back at children between ages 3 and 5.
As you all know, it's time for our Unicorn Spectacular Night of Nights, the night we look forward to all year. The Rainbow Lights Party! Yeah!
One good thing is that more effort was being put into the production of the songs.
Life's a blast, quite a treat, just fantastic, positively pink. How we feel can't be beat, truly, really, positively pink.
The lyrics were still badly written, but overall they had higher production values. Now with multiple instruments, people who actually knew how to sing, and they weren't so awkwardly forced into a scene as with previous generations. Also, they just didn't suck as much. Then in late 2009, they changed the entire character design. Just up and changed everything with the subtlety of a nuclear bomb. It was still the same Core 7, they just looked so f***ing different. What the hell? They looked really, really weird now. Just abnormal. They weren't even trying to make them look like ponies anymore. This sudden change is known as Gen 3.5, which quickly ended the entire Generation 3 incarnation. As stated above, the songs for this generation were a little bit better than generations past, but only slightly. The acting also improved. Overall, the series is a really good video babysitter for preschoolers.
Hello? I've been knocking and she hasn't answered her door. Let me try it. I'm a good knocker.
You know what? I don't even like anyone's main in this one. Generation 3 is the unofficial black sheep of the My Little Pony franchise because it's so freaking juvenile, more so than any other generation of My Little Pony. Yeah, it's a good safe video babysitter for preschoolers, but that's all it's good for. There's no entertainment value in this, and there's nobody over the age of 3 that likes this. Even fans of Gen 1 and 2 think this generation is stupid. There's a reason why this went straight to home video.
I'm so glad you're my friend.
And then in late 2010, Lauren Faust, who had worked on the Powerpuff Girls and Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, brought to life the newest incarnation of My Little Pony with Friendship is Magic. For the first time in almost 20 years, My Little Pony was back on TV, and for the first time ever, the episode wasn't a compilation of shorts, but one continuous story during the 30-minute run of the episode. The series takes place mostly in a place called Ponyville in the land of Equestria. The world is once again fantasy-based, but very steampunkish at the same time. There are cities and basic technology, but there is also magic and a few mythical creatures. For the first time ever in My Little Pony, this series was made with a mythology and backstory in place. This show anthropomorphized the ponies enough that they live in a town where many of them hold jobs, but not to the extent that Gen 2 did, which was ridiculous. There are 4 types of ponies in this series: Earth ponies, Pegasi, Unicorns, and Alicorns, which is a combination of all 3. The series follows the lives of 6 main characters. Sometimes the episode focuses on the whole group, sometimes just a few members, and sometimes it expands to the lives of those around them. This makes for a much better show because we're not just stuck with the same characters week in and week out. This is a character-driven show. The characters aren't all the same. Each one is unique and has a 3-dimensional personality. They all have different likes and dislikes, strengths and weaknesses, things that each pony is better or worse at than the others, and they all have differing opinions. Bottom line is, they're not unrealistically one-dimensional like other generations of My Little Pony. They also do a great job to avoid stereotyping each pony with only one kind of personality. But the uniqueness doesn't end with the personalities. The animators do an insanely great job at creating a really wide range of emotion and facial expressions for these characters. More than any other My Little Pony show. Hell, more than most other animated shows, period. A lot of effort also went into the casting. The character of Twilight Sparkle is one of the main 6 characters and a pivotal part of the show. She's played by the awesome and fun Tara Strong.
It's fine. It'll all be fine. The day isn't over yet, but it will be over soon. Ugh.
Who is Tara Strong? Well, if you were alive in the 90s, there's a fair chance you've heard her voice in something. She's done a lot. Equally great and talented are Ashley Ball and Andrea Liebman. Ashley and Andrea both play 2 of the main characters. Ashley has the parts of Rainbow Dash and Applejack. Andrea voices Fluttershy and Pinkie. This shows a high level of talent to be able to play 2 different characters, many times having a conversation with each other and being able to keep the voices separate enough.
Isn't that a mite dangerous? Not for a pony who can fly. Well, alrighty then.
The last pony in the main 6, Rarity, is also voiced by a woman of high talent, Tabitha St. Germain, who many anime fans may recognize her voice from the different Ocean Group productions that she's been in. And like the cartoons of the Golden Age, Friendship is Magic has employed celebrities to do occasional voice roles. For example, Star Trek The Next Generation's John Delancey.
You are not God. Blasphemy. You're lucky I don't cast you out or smite you or something.
Picture it. The chaos capital of the world.
I can't picture anything. It's too dark.
Well, wait a few minutes and you'll see it in the beautiful light of day. Or not.
The show's creators did a great job in casting the speaking voices, and they also had the phenomenal intelligence to hire different singing voices.
Winter hour, let's finish our holiday cheer. Winter hour, 'cause tomorrow spring is here. Winter hour, 'cause tomorrow spring is here. 'Cause tomorrow spring is here.
Yes, this series has songs, just like every other generation of My Little Pony. The difference is, these songs don't suck.
I'll be the toast of the town, the girl on the go, and the type of pony every pony should know. I'll be the one to watch the girl in the flow, and the type of pony every pony should know.
Unlike previous generations, these songs aren't placed in every episode. They're not awkwardly shoehorned into a scene, and best of all, they're fully produced. These songs have structure with verses, choruses, multiple instruments, backup vocalists. Hell, half these songs sound like something you'd hear on the radio. These songs don't feel forced either, like with previous generations. That can be attributed to the writing. The writers are probably the most underrated part of this whole show. They make everything flow so seamlessly together. This show is excellently written, especially for a cartoon. As mentioned before, the characters are 3-dimensional, the dialogue flows naturally, and it's funny.
Iron Will come back this afternoon.
But that's only half a day. We need 1 full day at least.
Iron Will delay for half a day and no longer.
A full day.
Half day.
Full day.
Half day!
Half day!
Full day!
We need half a day and no more!
Well, you'll get a full day and no less!
Okie dokie. See you tomorrow.
Wait, what?
You know, that's something I haven't mentioned yet, the tone of the show. This show is a light-hearted comedy. It's going for a fun, humorous feel.
It can fly and it's not a squirrel. Should we sing about it again?
The show's writers are smart enough to not take themselves too seriously and occasionally poke fun of the show.
Let me in. Sure thing, Spike. Heavens no. We're getting dressed.
Dressed? Beg pardon, Rarity, but we don't normally wear clothes.
The writers are also talented enough to not focus just on dialogue, but write in some action into the episodes.
Now get back to it, RD.
You got it, boss.
I'd take cover if I were you.
Bet you can't remember the last time you saw an explosion of all things on My Little Pony. As well as physical comedy.
Perfect. Lesson over.
In many ways, this is a throwback to the physical comedy of Looney Tunes.
Honestly, you're overreacting.
Another thing to attribute to the writers is that they work a moral into each episode, kind of a throwback to the PSAs at the end of cartoons in the 80s. And like in the 80s, the writers of Friendship is Magic are suave and smart enough to work the lessons into the story without being preachy or obnoxious about it.
I was so afraid of being thought of as a show-off that I was hiding a part of who I am. My friends helped me realize that it's okay to be proud of your talents, and there are times when it's appropriate to show them off. Especially when you're standing up for your friends.
It's been worked into the fabric of the series. The series can be considered formulaic in that regard, but that's because more thought was put into this series than others. It shows structure and forward thinking with the show's creator. Hell, most of the best shows are formulaic. Each episode is a comedic little story that culminates in the main characters learning a lesson in either morals, common sense, or something of emotional value.
You persisted in the face of doubt. Learning to trust your instincts is a valuable lesson to learn.
Sometimes around the end of the episode, you also run into these.
What are friends for?
You're more than friends. You're my family.
These so sweet you get diabetes from them moments. But hey, it's My Little Pony. You're never gonna fully get away from that. And you know what? I really like her. This show might be aimed at kids, but it doesn't pander to them. This is a show for people of all ages. The writing, production value, acting, music, animation, everything is done really well. Unlike previous generations of this show that was intentionally aimed at little girls, this generation's creator didn't aim for a specific age group. The show was made so anyone can enjoy it. It isn't over little kids' heads, but older audiences don't feel like their intelligence is being insulted when they watch it. The only thing keeping people from checking out this show is the name My Little Pony at the beginning of it. Why? Because people don't know anything about this show. They remember the previous generations from when they were kids and assume that nothing has changed in 20 years. In conclusion, Friendship is Magic is a really good show. Why? Because it has barely any resemblance to the preschool mentality of the last 3 generations of My Little Pony. I've had to do a lot of research, which entailed watching a lot of the last 3 generations of My Little Pony. Unfortunately, I can never take that back. Because when compared to Friendship is Magic, the other 3 are actually pretty bad. Like I said, if you told me 18 months ago that I'd be a fan of this, I would have said you'd be tripping. But most surprisingly, and anyone who becomes a fan of the show will say this, that it's become one of their all-time favorite shows. It's become one of my all-time favorite shows. There's no hidden agenda here. It's just a show about characters trying to live their lives the best they can. And you know, in that regard, it's kind of like when I watched Star Trek back in the 90s. Same mentality, really. Anyway, that is my comparative look at the 4 different generations of My Little Pony. And you know, after watching as much of the first 3 generations as I have, watching Friendship is Magic is like that feeling that you get when you eat perfectly cooked bacon. You know the feeling that just seems to say, life is good. Anyway, at this point, I've talked enough about Friendship is Magic. It's time for me to actually review a typical episode and determine if I'm really just blowing smoke out of my ass about this show. I'm FilmCrazyAdam. Thanks for watching part 2 of the big review. Stay tuned for the final installment and the premiere of I Heard That Show Sucks.